Match found.
Hello guys.
I've got all the time in the world.
Someone can play Sova or Kayo.
Burası TR sunucusu mu?
English please. Aga. Aga. Cypher Kayo or Cypher Kayo.
Okay, Cypher oder yeah.
Was sagst du da? Ich verstehe dich nicht. Kannst du bitte Deutsch reden?
Kayo.
Okay.
Cypher and Kayo if possible.
Yeah,
Sprichst du
Deutsch?
Englisch? Sprichst du Englisch?
Yeah.
Was? Nein, ich spreche kein Englisch. Tut mir leid.
I speak English.
Healer. Chamber healer bro healer. Sky.
No need. No.
Skies.
No
I
need.
don't have Sky.
No,
I
no.
don't have
No
Sky.
need. No need healer. No need.
Today the meal came to me. Optimo.
Connect setup B.
So you all guys from
Setup X.
so you
Boys.
so you all guys from Deutschland?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice to meet you guys. I'm from Morocco.
Me too.
Great.
No peeking.
A maybe. A is empty.
Why does no one say
Spike planted.
Oh my god.
Plant.
no shit?
Jet ES. Jet bana HP.
Nat 20.
Jet bana HP.
One enemy remaining.
Jet in smoke.
Bro.
Dashed away.
Did you really expect that?
That's it guys. Nice work.
Find them again. Kill them again.
Who will heal their healer?
A again. A. It is empty. So maybe A.
Spike planted.
Go.
Reloading.
Bro 1 HP. I am 1 HP. Cypher defuse.
One enemy remaining.
Nice work, nice work.
Nice.
Spike with you. Where will they go this time?
I guess maybe they will come B this time. And they will die again. Come, Cypher, Cypher. Come, put your things here. In B.
Someone go A.
They will come B, certainly.
Go A, go A. No peeking.
Izzo, come back.
B, 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 B.
Well, that's what I said.
Focusing.
Helal. Nice.
Last player standing. One enemy remaining.
My ult is ready.
What?
Do I get a
Yeah,
prize for that?
that's
Or
great.
To be honest, I expected more from them.
Crash against our wall.
drop in a smoke.
Hey, B, come back. Don't
Enemy
push,
spotted
don't push.
B.
Cypher, your traps.
Spike down B.
Yes, push bro. Yes.
You will not kill my allies. Back like I never left.
Last player standing.
What the fuck?
You had your fun. My turn.
Cypher, what the hell?
Pardon,
Nice
monsieur.
bro, don't pick close. Bro, don't pick, yeah.
Nice try.
Look your enemy in the eye. It helps with accuracy. Need a drop.
ISO, please. Drop, ghost, or claw.
Chamber, go A.
Okay.
Don't pick, yeah.
Don't pick, Aizo, come back.
Drop in a smoke.
We are just defending.
It's A, guys.
Okay.
Get out of my way.
It's A.
Okay. What the fuck? Ananı sikeyim seni.
Spike planted. Last player
Enemy
standing.
down.
Alright, lucky socks.
Guys, 2 in A, 2 in B, and 1 in middle. Chamber, stay in the middle. You are a sniper.
I have ult bro. I am play aggressive.
Okay.
B. Come me bro. Come me.
No peeking.
Help me. ISO. Don't pick ISO. Bro, what the Bro, help, bro, B, help, bro. Wait. Chamber, wait, bro. Nice.
Drop in a smoke.
Bro, A, bro. Come A, bro.
Found you.
8, guys.
I think it's A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spike planted.
Haha. Bro, knife. Bro, knife, bro.
One
Bro,
enemy
knife,
remaining.
please.
Thanks. Reload.
Thank you.
Flawless.
You said
You
knife,
all
but
did.
you killed him with your weapon.
Let us see what they have planned for us this time.
Why everybody go B?
Bro, 3B. 2A.
One in the middle, one stay in the middle.
2A, 4B.
Roll for initiative.
Bro, don't zone, chamber. Oh, okay, bro. Bobby.
No peeking.
What the? Amına koy. 4 bro, 4B. Bro, go B. Bro, base
planted.
TP. Nice bro.
Refreshing.
What?
Last player standing.
Left. Nice try.
Now remember, wipe the prints from your guns. It's just good crime scene etiquette.
ISO, bro, don't sound. Bro, no sound, okay? Don't pick, no sound, bro. No sound. Okay, go B, bro.
Drop in a smoke.
Bro,
A BB, guys.
guys B. Ananı sikeyim senin, orospu çocuğu. Koşsana B'ye.
No peeking.
Behind,
Spike
chamber.
down B. Last player standing.
Pardon, monsieur.
Behind. Chamber left, behind, bro.
I have them. Teleport's ready.
Behind ya.
When we go out there, someone dies. Carry that weight.
Come on guys, let's focus. They are easy. Just don't push. Always push.
Drop in a smoke.
B, bro, come B, bro.
Bro, come B. Shut your bitches up, please.
Spike planted.
You had your fun. My turn.
B.
Reloading.
Enemy spotted B.
One enemy remaining.
Refreshing.
Merci.
Reloading.
Flawless.
Were they born yesterday or something?
There.
Find the weakest link and kick him in the shin. Come on then! No peeking!
Bro, here up here.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey. Nice.
Spike down
Spike,
A.
spike.
Spike's here.
One enemy remaining.
rush.
Gun here.
Record, campus like
Drop in a smoke.
Over there.
Here.
come from it.
GG.
I hate visiting underground doctors.
Nice.
My ult is ready. Aye, where to? Could I have a drop?
Eyes,
Clove. Clove. Take, no, take.
thank you.
Glove. You want operator, bro.
Yeah.
Go mid. Bro,
Reloading.
I have big money. You want operator, bro.
Okay, okay.
Go B.
Drop in a smoke.
Spike down B. One enemy remaining.
Nice.
Last round in the half.
I didn't care how you do it. Just spend all your money. Maybe buy a shorty or two. Drop in a smoke. Right here.
Reloading.
Have a kit.
Where is everyone hiding?
One enemy remaining. Spike down B.
B.
You will barely work through it.
Nice.
Switching sides.
Yous don't get a reset button. So stay alive, please.
Okay. Let's go B. Reina, come. Reina. Reina.
Come mid.
We are waiting for you. You are
Okay,
duelists.
bro.
You will open the sites. Come.
From mid
You're
B.
not him.
Rina, where the
not
fuck
him.
are you? Come here.
Come B. Fast.
Rina, come.
Come B. Okay, bro, okay. Right now,
Look at that winning stuff,
Oh
aye?
wait. You say okay and you stay there.
Okay.
Voilà, ja.
Reloading.
I am mid play. Full idiot. One mid.
Oh, and he
Why
died.
did you come with us, you?
Are you stupid?
Go.
No peeking.
Go to bed, bro. It's bedtime, bro.
Make wall, I make wall. Oh,
Stopping
please
fire.
shut up here.
They found my wire.
Last player standing. Spike
Stupid Reyna.
down B. Flawless.
Bro,
Do
My
your
bad.
job, do your job. You are Reyna.
my bad.
Do your
my
job.
bad. My bad. Bro, go B.
Yeah.
Who will I spot first?
Reloading.
No peeking.
Push, Reyna, push.
Making cover.
Use powers and push.
Enemy B.
Spikes down.
Spike down B.
I have the spike.
Good shot.
Oh my god.
Spike planted.
I have the.
Last player standing.
Reyna, why you don't use your powers? I don't fucking understand.
Please shut up.
Use your fucking powers and enter the site.
Give me a moment. I need to set back up.
Could I have a drop?
Let's go A.
Right here.
Let's go A.
Drop in a smoke. No
Reloading.
charges.
Bislama.
Chamber, motherfucker. Fuck you, Chamber. Fuck you.
Fuck you, Trapper. Fuck you. Go to sleep. It's bedtime, bro.
Last
Spike
player
carrier is
standing.
killed. I have
One
retrieved the
enemy
spike.
remaining. Spike down A.
He's right, he's you're right, you're right, you're right, you're right.
30 seconds left.
My ultimate
Nice.
is ready.
GG. Very nice.
Will they try the same old tricks?
I will smoke the two of B and we go.
Dropping
Reloading.
smokes.
Smoke it.
Bro, go A.
Reyna, where the fuck are you going? Where the fuck?
For real?
For real,
Are you stupid or what?
no.
You
Reyna,
are a
use
fucking
something.
duelist, you don't understand that?
4v5.
One behind.
Enemy spotted
Very-
B.
I found my wire.
Destabilizing.
Where is everyone hiding?
Last player standing.
Really sad. It's just a kid.
Reina,
I don't
where are
understand.
you?
Shut the fuck up and you do your job.
Know what we should do? I'll tell you. We should win.
He's just looking for for kills.
For real.
That's true, for real.
Bro says Odin, but bro plays
I will find you.
crazy.
Dropping smoke. Reloading.
Wait, let's rotate A.
They are
Don't go
so
for me,
dead.
don't go for me. Chaba can go with because teleport. Guys, come A. Enemies let's rotate B.
Let's go back B.
Planted the spike.
You had your fun. My turn.
One enemy remaining.
There.
Every fight is a lesson.
Let's fake B and immediately rotate A. Let's shift.
I'm here to stay.
We will fake A and then we immediately rotate A.
Get out of my way.
Go A, go A.
Nowhere to run!
Rotate.
Spike carriers down.
Oh my god.
Spike down B.
Bro, go A.
I have the spike.
No peeking.
Enemy spotted B. Show me a target.
Last player standing.
No need to say.
Use your power.
Feeling sight. Ugh. Cutting their vision.
Thirty seconds left.
Guys, I didn't record it.
3 souls. I have this.
What the fuck?
Take aim, then fire. Let's not complicate it.
Right here.
Let's go A. Guys, let's go A.
Yeah. You have spike,
Dropping smokes.
Jet is low.
Come, A. I will plant A.
We're both B. Wait.
Plant, 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 plant. Someone is careful now. Plant.
Spike planted.
Last player standing.
Sova and Jet are very low. Sova, I hit 120 and Jet, I don't know.
Target
Let's
down.
go random. Nice.
No peeking.
Ah, they got me.
Anti.
You do this.
They
My
will
ult
scurry,
is ready.
and then they will die.
Bro, echo. Play echo.
Let's go over mid.
Focus now. Eyes off me.
Mid to B. I will smoke mid.
Drop in a
Okay.
smoke.
Mid smoke it.
Mid 4A. Mid 4A.
My ult ready.
Show me a target.
There.
Making cover.
A. Go A.
Weapon here.
Drop
No
in a smoke.
distraction.
You will not kill my allies.
Planted the spike. Found.
Reloading.
Flank guys, flank.
One enemy remaining.
Guys.
Is it?
They don't have a single life worth saving.
Claw. Vandal. Skin trade. Claw. Claw.
I just got it.
Go trade.
I just got
Over
it.
there.
Don't.
Over there.
Mid for A, bro.
No peeking.
Reloading.
Bro, go A. Go A, chamber.
Spike dropped.
What the fuck?
I got the spike.
Jet
There.
here.
Reloading.
Drop in a smoke.
Go B, bro. Go B, don't take that. Info.
Lots on sides right now. Plant. Plant.
Spike planted.
Reloading.
No peeking.
Nice smoke.
One enemy remaining.
Caught one.
Flank.
Team Ace.
Nice.
Is it?
Match point.
Their head is in the guillotina. Now pull.
where to set up shop.
Dropping smokes.
Reloading.
You had your fun. My turn.
Someone is a careful now.
I eat it.
Foolish.
I eat
Refreshing.
Reloading.
Like I never left.
He's damaged. 80.
Last player
down.
standing.
Ne dedin
Spike
Klo?
down A.
You can do it.
Bizde maç dedi.
Yeah, 80.
There.
You do this.
Drop in a smoke.
Okay.
You do this.
I have the spike.
30 seconds left.
Ah,
Bana koyayım.
Listen up, you muckers. If I don't get back up, just give me a nudge. I might not be dead, just taking a wee kip.
I will fake mid with smoke
Drop in a
and we go
smoke.
B.
Reloading. Still in sight. Cutting their vision.
Drop in a smoke. I got the spike.
Goodbye. Where is everyone hiding? 3 out of 5. Focus.
Reloading.
Okay bro guys.
One enemy remaining.
Is it?
GG bro.
Attackers win.
Ananı sikeyim, babanı sikeyim.
Shame. For shame I that I should be so abruptly, so hideously entangled with a boy. What was strange was that this was but one tiny aspect of the dreadful human tangle occurring everywhere, without end, forever. "Viennes," said Giovanni. We rose and walked back into the bar and Giovanni paid our bill. Another bottle of champagne had been opened and Jacques and Guillaume were now really beginning to be drunk. It was going to be ghastly and I wondered if those poor, patient boys were ever going to get anything to eat. Giovanni talked to Guillaume for a moment, agreeing to open up the bar. Jacques was too busy with the pale tall boy to have much time for me. We said good morning and left them. "I must go home," I said to Giovanni when we were in the street. "I must pay my hotel bill." Giovanni stared. "Mais tu es faux," he said mildly. "There is certainly no point in going home now, to face an ugly concierge and then go to sleep in that room all by yourself and then wake up later, with a terrible stomach and a sour mouth, wanting to commit suicide. Come with me. We will rise at a civilized hour and have a gentle aperitif somewhere and then a little dinner. It will be much more cheerful like that," he said with a smile. "You will see." "But I must get my clothes," I said. He took my arm. "Bien sûr. But you do not have to get them now." I held back. He stopped. "Come. I am sure that I am much prettier than your wallpaper. or your concierge. I will smile at you when you wake up. They will not. Ah. I could only say, tu es vache. It is you who are vache, he said. To want to leave me alone in this lonely place when you know that I am far too drunk to reach my home unaided. We laughed together, both caught up in a stinging, teasing sort of game. We reached the Boulevard de Sebastopol. But we will not any longer discuss the painful subject of how you desired to desert Giovanni at so dangerous an hour in the middle of a hostile city. I began to realize that he, too, was nervous. Far down the boulevard a cab meandered toward us, and he put up his hand. I will show you my room, he said. It is perfectly clear that you would have to see it one of these days, anyway. The taxi stopped beside us, and Giovanni, as though he were suddenly afraid that I would really turn and run, pushed me in before him. He got in beside me and told the driver, "Nation." The street he lived on was wide, respectable rather than elegant, and massive with fairly recent apartment buildings. The street ended in a small park. His room was in the back on the ground floor of the last building on this street. We passed the vestibule and the elevator into a short, dark corridor which led to his room. The room was small. I only made out the outlines of clutter and disorder. There was the smell of the alcohol he burned in his stove. He locked the door behind us, and then for a moment, in the gloom, we simply stared at each other with dismay, with relief, and breathing hard. I was trembling. I thought, if I do not open the door at once and get out of here, I am lost. But I knew I could not open the door. I knew it was too late. Soon it was too late to do anything but moan. He pulled me against him, putting himself into my arms as though he were giving me himself to carry, and slowly pulled me down with him to that bed. With everything in me screaming no, yet the some of me sighed yes. Here in the south of France it does not often snow, but snowflakes, in the beginning rather gently and now with more force, have been falling for the last half hour. It falls as though it might quite possibly decide to turn into a blizzard. It has been cold down here this winter, though the people of the region seem to take it as a mark of ill-breeding in a foreigner if he makes any reference to this fact. They themselves, even when their faces are burning in that wind which seems to blow from everywhere at once, and which penetrates everything, are as radiantly cheerful as children at the seashore. Il fait beau bien? Throwing their faces toward the lowering sky in which the celebrated southern sun has not made an appearance in days. I leave the window of the big room and walk through the house. While I am in the kitchen, staring into the mirror, I have decided to shave before all the water turns cold. I hear a knocking at the door. Some vague, wild hope leaps in me for a second, and then I realize that it is only the caretaker from across the road come to make certain that I have not stolen the silver or smashed the dishes, or chopped up the furniture for firewood. And indeed, she rattles the door and I hear her voice out there, cracking, "M'su, m'su, Elle Americaine." I wonder, with annoyance, why on earth she should sound so worried. But she smiles at once when I open the door, a smile which weds the coquette and the mother. She is quite old and not really French. She came many years ago, when I was a very young girl, sir, from just across the border out of Italy. She seems, like most of the women down here, to have gone into mourning directly the last child moved out of childhood. Hella thought that they were all widows, but it turned out most of them had husbands living yet. These husbands might have been their sons. They sometimes played Belodi in the sunshine in a flat field near our house, and their eyes, when they looked at Hella, contained the proud watchfulness of a father and the watchful speculation of a man. I sometimes played billiards with them and drank red wine in the tobacco. But they made me tense, with their ribaldries, their good nature, their fellowship, the life written on their hands and in their faces and in their eyes. They treated me as the son who has but lately been initiated into manhood, but at the same time with great distance, for I did not really belong to any of them, and they also sensed, or I felt they did, something else about me, something which it was no longer worth their while to pursue. This seemed to be in their eyes when I walked with Hella and they passed us on the road, saying very respectfully, "Salut, Monsieur Dame." They might have been the sons of these women in black, come home after a lifetime of storming and conquering the world, home to rest and be scolded and wait for death, home to those breasts, now dry, which had nourished them in their beginnings. Flakes of snow have drifted across the shawl which covers her head, and hang on her eyelashes and on the wisps of black and white hair not covered by the shawl. She is very strong yet, though now a little bent, a little breathless. Bonsoir, monsieur. Vous n'êtes pas malade? No. I say, I have not been sick. Come in. She comes in, closing the door behind her, and allowing the shawl to fall from her head. I still have my drink in my hand, and she notices this in silence. Eh bien, she says. Tant mieux. But we have not seen you for several days. You have been staying in the house. And her eyes search my face. I am embarrassed and resentful. Yet it is impossible to rebuff something at once shrewd and gentle in her eyes and voice. Yes, I say. The weather has been bad. It is not the middle of August, to be sure, says she. But you do not have the. It is not the middle of August, to be sure, says she. But you do not have the air of an invalid. It is not good to sit in the house alone. I am leaving in the morning, I say desperately. Did you want to take the inventory? Yes, she says, and produces from one of her pockets the list of household goods I signed upon arrival. It will not be long. Let me start from the back. We start toward the kitchen. On the way, I put my drink down on the night table in my bedroom. It doesn't matter to me if you drink, she says, not turning around. But I leave my drink behind anyway. We walk into the kitchen. The kitchen is suspiciously clean and neat. Where have you been eating? She asks sharply. They tell me at the tobacco you have not been seen for days. Have you been going to town? Yes. I say lamely, sometimes. On foot? She inquires. Because the bus driver, he has not seen you either. All this time she is not looking at me but around the kitchen, checking off the list in her hand with a short, yellow pencil. I can make no answer to her last, sardonic thrust, having forgotten that in a small village almost every move is made under the village's collective eye and ear. She looks briefly in the bathroom. I'm going to clean that tonight, I say. I should hope so, she says. Everything was clean when you moved in. We walk back through the kitchen. She has failed to notice that 2 glasses are missing, broken by me, and I have not the energy to tell her. I will leave some money in the cupboard. She turns on the light in the guest room. My dirty clothes are lying all over. Those go with me, I say, trying to smile. You could have come just across the road, she says. I would have been glad to give you something to eat. A little soup, something nourishing. I cook every day for my husband. What difference does one more make? This touches me, but I do not know how to indicate it, and I cannot say, of course, that eating with her and her husband would have stretched my nerves to the breaking point. She is examining a decorative pillow. Are you going to join your fiancé? She asks. I know I ought to lie, but somehow I cannot. I am afraid of her eyes. I wish now that I had my drink with me. No, I say flatly. She has gone to America. Tiens, she says. And you? Do you stay in France? She looks directly at me. For a while, I say. I am beginning to sweat. It has come to me that this woman, a peasant from Italy, must resemble, in so many ways, the mother of Giovanni. I keep trying not to hear her howls of anguish. I keep trying not to see in her eyes what would surely be there if she knew that her son would be dead by morning, if she knew what I had done to her son.
You know what? If one of those lookalikes came over here and pretended to be one of you, I'm not sure I'd be able to tell the difference. peeking!
Concussing! Blasting!
Spike planted. Last
Found you.
player standing.
Their lives are so meaningless. Might as well give them to me.
No peeking! Drop in a smoke.
Spike planted.
Disappoint me.
One enemy remaining. Last player standing.
Sage!
How you doing,
Digga,
Sage?
meine Fresse, wie Dogshit kann man nur sein?
Idiot!
Halt die Fresse, Digga.
Stay alive. I want their life, not yours.
Dropping smokes.
Tremor!
Right there.
Reloading!
Last player standing. Spike down mid. Spike planted.
Deep breaths, everyone. Your hearts are pounding. Saving. They forget their place.
Dropping smokes.
Hey, 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 hey.
planted.
Still in sight.
Last player standing.
Even with numbers, anything can still happen. Remember that.
Reloading. They found my
Spike down mid.
Spike
I
spotted
shot
mid.
something.
One enemy remaining.
Is it?
Now we start a winning streak of our own, aye? Get on with it. Dropping smokes. Fire in the hole!
It's you and me.
Good attempt. My ultimate is ready.
Spike down B.
Still in
One
sight.
enemy remaining.
Right there. My ult's ready.
Enemy spotted mid.
Concussing!
30 seconds left.
Reloading. You are so
Oh, this reminds me of this one time where I, Actually, never mind. All right, muckers, off we go. Dropping smokes.
Enemy spotted mid.
Last player standing. Spike
Careful
planted.
now. They found my wife.
One enemy remaining.
Nice one.
Cage triggered. Cage triggered.
No peeking.
Nice try, Cypher.
My ult is ready. Outside of this gig, immortality doesn't have as many day-to-day benefits as you'd think. Drop in a smoke.
Spike planted. Last player standing.
Back like I never left.
Last player standing. Flawless.
I reckon I'll take a kip after this. I've earned it.
Don't push, don't push.
Sage, come back.
No
Go
peeking.
ahead. Stand your ground. Trevor!
Many enemies say.
No peeking.
Spike planted. Last player standing.
No peeking.
Let them try to get through me.
F5, please. Oh mein Gott, reingeschissen.
Drop in a smoke.
My camera is destroyed.
Concussing! Blinding! Enemy spotted mid!
I found my wire.
Flash out!
It's you and me.
Spike planted.
That's you, pal. I can't.
Message sent.
No refreshing.
Enemy spotted. Mid.
One enemy remaining.
Time to take these arms for a spin.
I don't quit. Drop in a smoke. Fire in the hole!
Last player standing.
والله بيتعمل نص dog shit
Last
sign.
round before the switch.
I didn't care how you do it. Just spend all your money. Maybe buy a shorty or two.
One enemy remaining.
Bye.
Switching sides.
I know what must be done.
Sage, why you don't heal? Why you don't revive? I don't understand why you play Sage. Why?
Concussing!
No peeking.
Reloading. Reloading.
Go, Rena, go.
Foolish. I have planted the spike.
One
Reload.
enemy remaining.
Reload,
Last
reload.
player standing.
They found my
Reload.
wire.
Is it?
They're usually distracted once I reveal them. Make sure you take advantage.
Trevor! Clearing out! Blinding!
No
Enemy
peeking.
spotted! B.
Reloading.
Right there. Reloading! Flash out!
Our spike carrier is killed.
Spike down B.
Reyna, you are a duelist.
Wall raised.
Camera taken out.
Reloading. Reloading.
30 seconds left.
That's a kill.
One enemy remaining. Last player standing.
Behind.
10 seconds left.
Not all the time.
Don't go. He has shotgun. You have shotgun. Don't go.
Clutch.
Are you stupid? Oh, fucking stupid. You're fucking stupid.
As much as this world hurt me, it's mine, and I will kill to defend it.
Go fuck yourself, motherfucker.
Fucking stupid. I told you he have shotgun and you go hit him. Shut the fuck up.
No time, bro. You have no time.
He was behind the wall. You just tapped the wall. You don't know how to play.
Spike drop.
Dropping smokes. I got the spike. No charges.
Enemy spotted mid. Enemy spotted mid. Got one.
Spike's down.
Spike down B. Last player standing.
They think they're better than us. I can tell.
For you, hermanita.
Drop in a smoke.
Enemy spotted B.
Blasting! Concussing!
Gray dead.
Flash out! Right there. Enemy spotted.
Drop in a smoke.
One enemy
Target
remaining.
down.
Spike planted.
Just a wee flesh wound. I'll walk it off.
One of my cameras is broken. Oh, wait. Okay. It's fine. I need this.
My thanks.
Oh, shite, I lost my pet rock. Here. No peeking.
Enemy spotted me.
Trevor! Clearing out!
Still in sight.
Drop in a
Blinding.
smoke.
Enemy spotted A.
Train hard.
That's not ready.
Wow, my eyes are down.
Flash out!
Enemy spotted A.
Ruby, Ruby, Ruby.
Enemy in defender spawn.
Barrier created.
I know
Spike
exactly.
down
I
B.
have the spike.
They found my wire.
30 seconds left. Last player standing. Spike down B. 10 seconds left. Team Ace. Match point.
If they try something, I'll see it.
Sadly, the team is very bad. Sadly. I have no great jurists. Sometimes I wish I have played Neon instead of Clove.
Değişikmiş.
Concussing! Blinding!
No peeking. Fire no peeking.
Enemy spotted mid.
Last
Spike
player
carrier's
standing. Spike down A.
My ult is ready. Refreshing.
Defenders win.
Yani.
But, of course, she is not Giovanni's mother. It is not good, she says. It is not right for a young man like you to be sitting alone in a great big house with no woman. She looks, for a moment, very sad. Starts to say something more and thinks better of it. I know she wants to say something about Hella, whom neither she nor any of the other women here had liked. But she turns out the light in the guest room and we go into the big bedroom, the master bedroom, which Hella and I had used, not the one in which I have left my drink. This too is very clean and orderly. She looks about the room and looks at me, and smiles. You have not been using this room lately, she says. I feel myself blushing painfully. She laughs. But you will be happy again, she says. You must go and find yourself another woman, a good woman, and get married and have babies. Yes, that is what you ought to do, she says, as though I had contradicted her. And before I can say anything, where is your maman? She is dead. Ah! She clicks her teeth in sympathy. That is sad. And your papa? Is he dead too? No. He is in America. Povera bambino. She looks at my face. I am really helpless in front of her, and if she does not leave soon, she will reduce me to tears or curses. But you do not have the intention of just wandering through the world like a sailor? I am sure that would make your mother very unhappy. You will make a home someday? Yes, surely. Someday. She puts her strong hand on my arm. Even if your maman, she is dead, that is very sad. Your papa will be very happy to see bambinos from you. She pauses, her black eyes soften. She is looking at me, but she is looking beyond me, too. We had 3 sons. 2 of them were killed in the war. In the war, too, we lost all our money. It is sad, is it not, to have worked so hard all one's life in order to have a little peace in one's old age and then to have it all taken away? Almost killed my husband. He has never been the same since. Then I see that her eyes are not merely shrewd. They are also bitter and very sad. She shrugs her shoulders. All what can one do? It is better not to think about it. Then she smiles. But our last son, he lives in the north. He came to see us 2 years ago, and he brought with him his little boy. His little boy, he was only 4 years old then. He was so beautiful. Mario, he is called. She gestures. It is my husband's name. They stayed about 10 days and we felt young again. She smiles again. Carrot, especially my husband. And she stands there a moment with this smile on her face. Then she asks, abruptly, do you pray? I wonder if I can stand this another moment. Asterisk no. I stammer. Tiamo. Not often. But you are a believer? I smile. It is not even a patronizing smile, though perhaps I wish it could be. Yes. But I wonder what my smile could have looked like. It did not reassure her. 2 must pray, she says very soberly. I assure you, even just a little prayer from time to time. Light a little candle. If it were not for the prayers of the blessed saints, one could not live in this world at all. I speak to you, she says, drawing herself up slightly, as though I were your mammon. Do not be offended. But I am not offended. You are very nice. You are very nice to speak to me this way. She smiles a satisfied smile. Men, not just babies like you, but old men too. They always need a woman to tell them the truth. Les hommes, alles sont impossibles. And she smiles, and forces me to smile at the cunning of this universal joke, and turns out the light in the master bedroom. We go down the hall again, thank heaven, to my drink. This bedroom, of course, is quite untidy. The light burning, my bathrobe, books, dirty socks, and a couple of dirty glasses, and a coffee cup half full of stale coffee, lying around all over the place, and the sheets on the bed a tangled mess. I'll fix this up before morning, I say. Bien, sir, she sighs. 2 really must take my advice, monsieur, and get married. At this suddenly we both laugh. Then I finish my drink. The inventory is almost done. We go into the last room, the big room where the bottle is, before the window. She looks at the bottle, then at me. But you will be drunk by morning, she says. Oh no, I'm taking the bottle with me. It is quite clear that she knows this is not true, but she shrugs her shoulders. Again. Then she becomes, by the act of wrapping the shawl around her head, very formal, even a little shy. Now that I see she is about to leave, I wish I could think of something to make her stay. When she has gone back across the road, the night will be blacker and longer than ever. I have something to say to her, but of course it will never be said. I feel that I want to be forgiven. I want her to forgive me, but I do not know how to state my crime. My crime, in some odd way, is in being a man, and she knows all about this already. It is terrible how naked she makes me feel, like a half-grown boy, naked before his mother. She puts out her hand. I take it awkwardly. Bon voyage, monsieur. I hope that you were happy while you were here and that, perhaps, one day, you will visit us again. She is smiling and her eyes are kind, but now the smile is purely social. It is the graceful termination of a business deal. Thank you, I say. Perhaps I will be back next year. She releases my hand and we walk to the door. Oh, she says at the door. Please do not wake me up in the morning. Put the keys in my mailbox. I do not anymore have any reason to get up so early. Surely. I smile and open the door. Good night, madam. Bonsoir, monsieur. Adieu. She steps out into the darkness. But there is a light coming from my house and from her house across the road. The town lights glimmer beneath us and I hear, briefly, the sea again. She walks a little away from me and turns. Souvenez-vous, she tells me. One must make a little prayer from time to time, and I close the door. She has made me realize that I have much to do before morning. I decide to clean the bathroom before I allow myself another drink. And I begin to do this, first scrubbing out the tub, then running water into the pail to mop the floor. The bathroom is tiny and square, with one frosted window. It reminds me of that claustrophobic room in Paris. Giovanni had had great plans for remodeling the room, and there was a time when he had actually begun to do this, when we lived with plaster all over everything and bricks piled on the floor. We took packages of bricks out of the house at night and left them in the streets. I suppose they will come for him early in the morning, perhaps just before dawn, so that the last thing Giovanni will ever see will be that gray, lightless sky over Paris, beneath which we stumbled homeward together so many desperate and drunken mornings. Chapter 1. I remember that life in that room seemed to be occurring beneath the sea. Time flowed past indifferently above us. Hours and days had no meaning. In the beginning, our life together held a joy and amazement which was newborn every day. Beneath the joy, of course, was anguish, and beneath the amazement was fear. But they did not work themselves to the beginning until our high beginning was aloes on our tongues. By then anguish and fear had become the surface on which we slipped and slid, losing balance, dignity, and pride. Giovanni's face, which I had memorized so many mornings, noons and nights, hardened before my eyes, began to give in secret places, began to crack. The light in the eyes became a glitter. The wide and beautiful brow began to suggest the skull beneath. The sensual lips turned inward, busy with the sorrow overflowing from his heart. It became a stranger's face, or it made me so guilty to look on him that I wished it were a stranger's face. Not all my memorizing had prepared me for the metamorphosis which my memorizing had helped to bring about. Our day began before daybreak, when I drifted over to Guillaume's bar in time for a pre-closing drink. Sometimes, when Guillaume had closed the bar to the public, a few friends and Giovanni and myself stayed behind for breakfast and music. Sometimes Jacques was there. From the time of our meeting with Giovanni, he seemed to come out more and more. If we had breakfast with Guillaume, we usually left around 7 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes, when Jacques was there, he offered to drive us home in the car which he had suddenly and inexplicably bought, but we almost always walked the long way home along the river. Spring was approaching Paris. Walking up and down this house tonight, I see again the river, the cobblestoned quays, the bridges. Low boats passed beneath the bridges, and on those boats one sometimes saw women hanging washing out to dry. Sometimes we saw a young man in a canoe, energetically rowing, looking rather helpless, and also rather silly. There were yachts tied up along the banks from time to time, and houseboats and barges. We passed the firehouse so often on our way home that the firemen got to know us. When winter came again and Giovanni found himself in hiding in one of these barges, it was a fireman who, seeing him crawl back into hiding with a loaf of bread one night, tipped off the police. The trees grew green those mornings, the river dropped, and the brown. The trees grew green those mornings, the river dropped, and the brown winter smoke dropped downward out of it, and fishermen appeared. Giovanni was right about the fishermen. They certainly never seemed to catch anything, but it gave them something to do. Along the quays the bookstalls seemed to become almost festive, awaiting the weather which would allow the passerby to leaf idly through the dog-eared books, and which would inform the jurist with a passionate desire to carry off to the United States, or Denmark, more colored prints than he could afford, or, when he got home, know what to do with. Also, the girls appeared on their bicycles along with boys similarly equipped, and we sometimes saw them along the river as the light began to fade, their bicycles put away until the morrow. This was after Giovanni had lost his job and we walked around in the evenings. Those evenings were bitter. Giovanni knew that I was going to leave him, but he did not dare accuse me for fear of being corroborated. I did not dare to tell him. Hella was on her way back from Spain and my father had agreed to send me money, which I was not going to use to help Giovanni, who had done so much to help me. I was going to use it to escape his room. Every morning the sky and the sun seemed to be a little higher and the river stretched before us with a greater haze of promise. Every day the bookstall keepers seemed to have taken off another garment, so that the shape of their bodies appeared to be undergoing a most striking and continual metamorphosis. One began to wonder what the final shape would be. It was observable, through open windows on the quays and side streets, that hoteliers had called in painters to paint the rooms. The women in the dairies had taken off their blue sweaters and rolled up the sleeves of their dresses, so that one saw their powerful arms. The bread seemed warmer and fresher in the bakeries. The small school children had taken off their capes and their knees were no longer scarlet with the cold. There seemed to be more chatter, in that curiously measured and vehement language, which sometimes reminds me of stiffening egg white and sometimes of stringed instruments but always of the underside and aftermath of passion. But we did not often have breakfast in Guillaume's bar because Guillaume did not like me. Usually I simply waited around, as inconspicuously as possible, until Giovanni had finished cleaning up the bar and had changed his clothes. Then we said good night and left. The habitués had evolved toward us a curious attitude, composed of an unpleasant maternalism, and envy, and disguised dislike. They could not, somehow, speak to us as they spoke to one another, and they resented the strain we imposed on them of speaking in any other way. And it made them furious that the dead center of their lives was, in this instance, none of their business. It made them feel their poverty again, through the narcotics of chatter and dreams of conquest and mutual contempt. Wherever we ate breakfast and wherever we walked, when we got home we were always too tired to sleep right away. We made coffee and sometimes drank cognac with it. We sat on the bed and talked and smoked. We seemed to have a great deal to tell, or Giovanni did. Even at my most candid, even when I tried hardest to give myself to him as he gave himself to me, I was holding something back. I did not, for example, really tell him about Hella until I had been living in the room a month. I told him about her then because her letters had begun to sound as though she would be coming back to Paris very soon. "What is she doing, wandering around through Spain alone?" asked Giovanni. "She likes to travel," I said. "Oh," said Giovanni. "Nobody likes to travel, especially not women. There must be some other reason." He raised his eyebrows suggestively. "Perhaps she has a Spanish lover and is afraid to tell you? Perhaps she is with a torero. Perhaps she is," I thought. "But she wouldn't be afraid to tell me." Giovanni laughed. "I do not understand Americans at all," he said. "I don't see that there's anything very hard to understand. We aren't married, you know." "But she is your mistress, no?" asked Giovanni. "Yes. And she is still your mistress?" I stared at him. "Of course," I said. "Well then," said Giovanni, "I do not understand what she is doing in Spain while you are in Paris." Another thought struck him. "How old is she?" "She's 2 years younger than I am." I watched him. "What's that got to do with it? Is she married?" "I mean to somebody else, naturally." I laughed. He laughed too. "Of course not." "Well, I thought she might be an older woman," said Giovanni, "with a husband somewhere, and perhaps she had to go away with him from time to time in order to be able to continue her affair with you. That would be a nice arrangement. Those women are sometimes very interesting and they usually have a little money. If that woman was in Spain, she would bring back a wonderful gift for you. But a young girl bouncing around in a foreign country by herself, I do not like that at all. You should find another mistress." It all seemed very funny. I could not stop laughing. "Do you have a mistress?" I asked him. "Not now," he said. "But perhaps I will again one day." He half frowned, half smiled. "I don't seem to be very interested in women right now. I don't know why. I used to be." Perhaps I will be again. He shrugged. Perhaps it is because women are just a little more trouble than I can afford right now. Itipus, he stopped. I wanted to say that it seemed to me that he had taken a most peculiar road out of his trouble, but I only said, after a moment, cautiously, "You don't seem to have a very high opinion of women." "Oh, women! There is no need, thank heaven, to have an opinion about women. Women are like water. They are tempting like that, and they can be that treacherous, and they can seem to be that bottomless, you know? And they can be that shallow. And that dirty." He stopped. "I perhaps don't like women very much. That's true. That hasn't stopped me from making love to many and loving one or two. But most of the time I made love only with the body. That can make one very lonely," I said. I had not expected to say it. He had not expected to hear it. He looked at me and reached out and yooshed me on the cheek. "Yes," he said. "Then, I am not trying to be mechant when I talk about women. I respect women very much for their inside life, which is not like the life of a man. Women don't seem to like that idea," I said. "Oh, well," said Giovanni. "These absurd women running around today, full of ideas and nonsense, and thinking themselves equal to men. Kel Rigolade, they need to be beaten half to death so that they can find out who rules the world." I laughed. "Did the women you knew like to get beaten?" He smiled. "I don't know if they liked it, but a beating never made them go away." We both laughed. "They were not, anyway, like that silly little girl of yours, wandering all over Spain and sending postcards back to Paris. What does she think she is doing? Does she want you, or does she not want you?" "She went to Spain," I said, "to find out." Giovanni opened his eyes wide. He was indignant. "To Spain? Why not to China? What is she doing, testing all the Spaniards and comparing them with you?" I was a little annoyed. "You don't understand," I said. "She is a very intelligent, very complex girl. She wanted to go away and think. What is there to think about? She sounds rather silly, I must say. She just... What is there to think about? She sounds rather silly, I must say. She just can't make up her mind what bed to sleep in. She wants to eat her cake and she wants to have it all. If she were in Paris now," I said abruptly, "then I would not be in this room with you. You would possibly not be living here," he conceded. "Taught we would certainly be seeing each other. Why not? Why not? Suppose she found out." "Found out? Found out what?" "Oh, stop it," I said. "You know what there is to find out." He looked at me very soberly. "She sounds more and more impossible. This little girl of yours. What does she do, follow you everywhere? Or will she hire detectives to sleep under our bed? And what business is it of hers? Anyway, you can't possibly be serious," I said. "I certainly can be," he retorted. "And I am. You are the incomprehensible one." He groaned and poured more coffee and picked up our cognac from the floor. "Chez toi, everything sounds extremely feverish and complicated. Like one of those English murder mysteries. To find out, you keep saying, as though we were accomplices in a crime. We have not committed any crime." He poured the cognac. "It's just that she'll be terribly hurt if she does find out. That's all. People have very dirty words for this situation." I stopped. His face suggested that my reasoning was flimsy. I added defensively, "Besides, it is a crime in my country, and after all, I didn't grow up here, I grew up there." "If dirty words frighten you," said Giovanni, "I really do not know how you have managed to live so long. People are full of dirty words. The only time they do not use them, most people I mean, is when they are describing something dirty." He paused and we watched each other. In spite of what he was saying, he looked rather frightened himself. "If your countrymen think that privacy is a crime, so much the worse for your country. And as for this girl of yours, are you always at her side when she is here? I mean all day, every day? You go out sometimes to have a drink alone, no? Maybe you sometimes take a walk without her, to think, as you say. The Americans seem to do a great deal of thinking. And perhaps while you are thinking and having that drink, you look at another girl who passes, no? Maybe you even look up at that sky and feel your own blood in you? Or does everything stop when Hella comes? No drinks alone, no looks at other girls, no sky? Answer me. I've told you already that we're not married. But I don't seem to be able to make you understand anything at all this morning. make you understand anything at all this morning. But anyway, when Hella is here you do sometimes see other people without Hella? Of course. And does she make you tell her everything you have done while you were not with her? I sighed. I had lost control of the conversation somewhere along the line and I simply wanted it to end. I drank my cognac too fast and it burned my throat. Of course not. Well, you are a very charming and good-looking and civilized boy and, unless you are impotent, I do not see what she has to complain about or what you have to worry about. To arrange, mon cher, la vie pratique, is very simple. It only has to be done. He reflected. Sometimes things go wrong, I agree. Then you have to arrange it another way. But it is certainly not the English melodrama you make it. Why, that way, life would simply be unbearable. He poured more cognac and grinned at me, as though he had solved all my problems. And there was something so artless in this smile that I had to smile back. Giovanni liked to believe that he was hard-headed and that I was not, and that he was teaching me the stony facts of life. It was very important for him to feel this. It was because he knew, unwillingly, at the very bottom of his heart, that I, helplessly, at the very bottom of mine, resisted him with all my strength. Eventually we grew still, we fell silent, and we slept. We awoke around 3 or 4 in the afternoon, when the dull sun was prying at odd corners of the cluttered room. We arose and washed and shaved, bumping into each other and making jokes and furious with the unstated desire to escape the room. Then we danced out into the streets, into Paris, and ate quickly somewhere, and I left Giovanni at the door to Guillaume's bar. Then I, alone and relieved to be alone, perhaps went to a movie or walked or returned home and read, or sat in a park and read, or sat on a cafe terrace or talked to people or wrote letters. I wrote to Hella, telling her nothing, or I wrote to my father asking for money. And no matter what I was doing, another me sat in my belly, absolutely cold with terror over the question of my life. Giovanni had awakened an itch, had released a gnaw in me. I realized it one afternoon, when I was taking him to work via the Boulevard Montparnasse. We had bought a kilo of cherries and we were eating them as we walked along. We were both insufferably childish and high-spirited that afternoon, and the spectacle we presented, 2 grown men jostling each other on the wide sidewalk and aiming the cherry pits, as though they were spitballs, into each other's faces, must have been outrageous. And I realized that such childishness was fantastic at my age, and the happiness out of which it sprang yet more so. For that moment I really loved Giovanni, who had never seemed more beautiful than he was that afternoon. And, watching his face, I realized that it meant much to me that I could make his face so bright. I saw that I might be willing to give a great deal not to lose that power. And I felt myself flow toward him, as a river rushes when the ice breaks up. Yet, at that very moment, there passed between us on the pavement another boy, a stranger, and I invested him at once with Giovanni's beauty, and what I felt for Giovanni I also felt for him. Giovanni saw this and saw my face, and it made him laugh the more. I blushed and he kept laughing, and then the boulevard, the light, the sound of his laughter turned into a scene from a nightmare. I kept looking at the trees, the light falling through the leaves. I felt sorrow and shame and panic and great bitterness. At the same time, it was part of my turmoil and also outside it. I felt the muscles in my neck tighten with the effort I was making not to turn my head and watch that boy diminish down the bright avenue. The beast which Giovanni had awakened in me would never go to sleep again. But one day I would not be with Giovanni anymore. And would I then, like all the others, find myself turning and following all kinds of boys down God knows what dark avenues, into what dark places. With this fearful intimation there opened in me a hatred for Giovanni which was as powerful as my love and which was nourished by the same roots. Chapter 2. I scarcely know how to describe that room. It became, in a way, every room I had ever been in, and every room I find myself in hereafter will remind me of Giovanni's room. I did not really stay there very long. We met before the spring began and I left there during the summer, but it still seems to me that I spent a lifetime there. Life in that room seemed to be occurring underwater, as I say, and it is certain that I underwent a sea change there. To begin with, the room was not large enough for 2. It looked out on a small courtyard. Looked out means only that the room had 2 windows, against which the courtyard malevolently pressed, encroaching day by day, as though it had confused itself with a jungle. We, or rather Giovanni, kept the windows closed most of the time. He had never bought any curtains, neither did we buy any while I was in the room. To ensure privacy, Giovanni had obscured the window panes with a heavy, white cleaning polish. We sometimes heard children playing outside our window, sometimes strange shapes loomed against it. At such moments, Giovanni, working in the room or lying in bed, would stiffen like a hunting dog and remain perfectly silent until whatever seemed to threaten our safety had moved away. He had always had great plans for remodeling this room, and before I arrived he had already begun. One of the walls was a dirty, streaked white where he had torn off the wallpaper. The wall facing it was destined never to be uncovered, and on this wall a lady in a hoop skirt and a man in knee breeches perpetually walked together, hemmed in by roses. The wallpaper lay on the floor, in great sheets and scrolls in dust. On the floor also lay our dirty laundry, along with Giovanni's tools and the paint brushes and the bottles of oil and turpentine. Our suitcases teetered on top of something, so that we dreaded ever having to open them and sometimes went without some minor necessity, such as clean socks, for days. No one ever came to see us except Jacques, and he did not come often. We were far from the center of the city and we had no phone. I remembered the first afternoon I woke up there, with Giovanni fast asleep beside me, heavy as a fallen rock. The sun filtered through the room so faintly that I was worried about the time. I stealthily lit a cigarette, for I did not want to wake Giovanni. I did not yet know how I would face his eyes. I looked about me. Giovanni had said something in the taxi about his room being very dirty. "I'm sure it is," I had said lightly, and turned away from him, looking out of the window. Then we had both been silent. When I woke up in his room, I remembered that there had been something strained and painful in the quality of that silence, which had been broken when Giovanni said, with a shy, bitter smile, "I must find some poetic figure," and he spread his heavy fingers in the air, as though a metaphor were tangible. I watched him. "Look at the garbage of this city," he said, finally, and his fingers indicated the flying street. "All of the garbage of this city? Where do they take it? I don't know where they take it, but it might very well be my room. It's much more likely," I said, "that they dump it into the Seine." But I sensed, when I woke up and looked around the room, the bravado and the cowardice of his figure of speech. This was not the garbage of Paris, which would have been anonymous. This was Giovanni's regurgitated life. Before and beside me and all over the room, towering like a wall, were boxes of cardboard and leather, some tied with string, some locked, some bursting, and out of the topmost box before me spilled down sheets of violin music. There was a violin in the room, lying on the table in its warped, cracked case. It was impossible to guess from looking at it whether it had been laid to rest there yesterday or 100 years before. The table was loaded with yellowing newspapers and empty bottles, and it held a single brown and wrinkled potato in which even the sprouting eyes were rotten. Red wine had been spilled on the floor. It had been allowed to dry, and it made the air in the room sweet and heavy. But it was not the room's disorder which was frightening. It was the fact that when one began searching for the key to this disorder, one realized that it was not to be found in any of the usual places. For this was not a matter of habit or circumstance or temperament. It was a matter of punishment and grief. I do not know how I knew this, but I knew it at once. Perhaps I knew it because I wanted to live. And I stared at the room with the same nervous, calculating extension of the intelligence and of all one's forces which occurs when gauging a mortal and unavoidable danger. At the silent walls of the room with its distant, archaic lovers trapped in an interminable rose garden, and the staring windows, staring like two great eyes of ice and fire, and the ceiling which lowered like those clouds out of which fiends have sometimes spoken, and which obscured but failed to soften its malevolence. Behind the yellow light which hung like a diseased and undefinable sex M its center. Under this blunted arrow, this smashed flower of fight lay the terrors which encompassed Giovanni's soul. I understood why Giovanni had wanted me and had brought me to his last retreat. I was to destroy this room and give to Giovanni a new and better life. This life could only be my own, which, in order to transform Giovanni's, must first become a part of Giovanni's room. In the beginning, because the motives which led me to Giovanni's room were so mixed, had so little to do with his hopes and desires, and were so deeply a part of my own desperation, I invented in myself a kind of pleasure in playing the housewife after Giovanni had gone to work. I threw out the paper, the bottles, the fantastic accumulation of trash. I examined the contents of the innumerable boxes and suitcases and disposed of them. But I am not a housewife. Men never can be housewives. And the pleasure was never real or deep. though Giovanni smiled his humble, grateful smile and told me in as many ways as he could find how wonderful it was to have me there. How I stood, with my love and my ingenuity, between him and the dark. Each day he invited me to witness how he had changed, how love had changed him, how he worked and sang and cherished me. I was in a terrible confusion. Sometimes I thought, but this is your life. Stop fighting it. Stop fighting. Or I thought, but I am happy. And he loves me. I am safe. Sometimes, when he was not near me, I thought, I will never let him yuch me again. Then, when he yushed me, I thought, it doesn't matter, it is only the body, it will soon be over. When it was over, I lay in the dark and listened to his breathing and dreamed of the yuch of hands, of Giovanni's hands, or anybody's hands, hands which would have the power to crush me and make me whole again. Sometimes I left Giovanni over our afternoon breakfast, blue smoke from a cigarette circling around his head, and went off to the American Express office at Opera, where my mail would be if I had any. Sometimes, but rarely, Giovanni came with me. He said that he could not endure being surrounded by so many Americans. He said they all looked alike, as I am sure they did to him. But they didn't look alike to me. I was aware that they all had in common something that made them Americans, but I could never put my finger on what it was. I knew that whatever this common quality was, I shared it. And I knew that Giovanni had been attracted to me partly because of it. When Giovanni wanted me to know that he was displeased with me, he said I was a vrai Americain. Conversely, when delighted, he said that I was not an American at all. And on both occasions he was striking, deep in me, a nerve which did not throb in him. And I resented this, resented being called an American, and resented resenting it, because it seemed to make me nothing more than that, whatever that was. And I resented being called not an American because it seemed to make me nothing. Yet, walking into the American Express office one harshly bright, midsummer afternoon, I was forced to admit that this active, so disquietingly cheerful horde struck the eye, at once, as a unit. At home, I could have distinguished patterns, habits, accents of speech with no effort whatever. Now everybody sounded, unless I listened hard, as though they had just arrived from Nebraska. At home I could have seen the clothes they were wearing. But here I only saw bags, cameras, belts, and hats, all clearly from the same deployment store. At home I would have had some sense of the individual womanhood of the woman I faced. Here the most ferociously accomplished seemed to be involved in some ice-cold or sun-dried travesty of sex, and even grandmothers seemed to have had no traffic with the flesh. And what distinguished the men was that they seemed incapable of age. They smelled of soap, which seemed indeed to be their preservative against the dangers and exigencies of any more intimate odor. The boy he had been shown, somehow unsoiled, unused, unchanged, through the eyes of the man of 60, booking passage with his smiling wife to Rome. His wife might have been his mother, forcing more oi meal down his throat, and Rome might have been the movie she had promised to allow him to see. Yet I also suspected that what I was seeing was but a part of the truth and perhaps not even the most important part. Beneath these faces, these clothes, accents, rudenesses, was power and sorrow, both unadmitted, unrealized, the power of inventors, the sorrow of the disconnected. I took my place in the male line behind two girls who had decided that they wanted to stay on in Europe and who were hoping to find jobs with the American government in Germany. One of them had fallen in love with a Swiss boy. So I gathered, from the low, intense, and troubled conversation she was having with her friend. The friend was urging her to put her foot down. On what principle I could not discover, and the girl in love kept nodding her head, but more in perplexity than agreement. She had the choked and halting air of someone who has something more to say but finds no way of saying it. "You mustn't be a fool about this," the friend was saying. I know, said the girl. One had the impression that, though she certainly did not wish to be a fool, she had lost one definition of the word and might never be able to find another. There were two letters for me, one from my father and one from Hella. Hella had been sending me only postcards for quite a while. I was afraid her letter might be important and I did not want to read it. I opened the letter might be important and I did not want to read it. I opened the letter from my father first. I read it, standing just beyond reach of the sunlight, beside the endlessly swinging double doors. "Dear Butch," my father said, "aren't you ever coming home? Don't think I'm only being selfish, but it's true, I'd like to see you. I think you have been away long enough. God knows I don't know what you're doing over there, and you don't write enough for me even to guess. But my guess is you're going to be sorry one of these fine days that you stayed over there, looking at your navel and let the world pass you by. There's nothing over there for you. You're as American as pork and beans, though maybe you don't want to think so anymore. And maybe you won't mind my saying that you're getting a little old for studying, after all, if that's what you're doing. You're pushing 30. I'm getting along too, and you're all I've got. I'd like to see you. You keep asking me to send you your money, and I guess you think I'm being a bastard about it. I'm not trying to starve you out, and if you really need anything, I'll be the first to help you, but I really don't think I'd be doing you a favor by letting you spend what little money you've got over there and then coming home to nothing. What the hell are you doing? Let your old man in on the secret, can't you? You may not believe this, but once I was a young man, too. And then he went on about my stepmother and how she wanted to see me, and about some of our friends and what they were doing. It was clear that my absence was beginning to frighten him. He did not know what it meant, but he was living, obviously, in a pit of suspicions which daily became blacker and vaguer. He would not have known how to put them into words, even if he had dared. The question he longed to ask was not in the letter, and neither was the offer. Is it a woman, David? Bring her on home. I don't care who she is. Bring her on home and I'll help you get set up. He could not risk this question because he could not have endured an answer in the negative. An answer in the negative would have revealed what strangers we had become. I folded the letter and put it in my back pocket and looked out for a moment at the wide, sunlit foreign avenue. There was a sailor dressed all in white coming across the boulevard, walking with that funny roll sailors have and with that aura, hopeful and hard, of having to make a great deal happen in a hurry. I was staring at him, though I did not know it, and wishing I were he. He seemed, somehow, younger than I had ever been, and blonder and more beautiful, and he wore his masculinity as unequivocally as he wore his skin. He made me think of home. Perhaps home is not a place but simply an irrevocable condition. I knew how he drank and how he was with his friends and how pain and women baffled him. I wondered if my father had ever been like that, if I had ever been like that, though it was hard to imagine. For this boy, striding across the avenue like light itself, any antecedents, any connections at all. We came abreast and, as though he had seen some all-revealing panic in my eyes, he gave me a look contemptuously lewd and knowing. Just such a look as he might have given, but a few hours ago, to the desperately well-dressed nymphomaniac or trollop who was trying to make him believe she was a lady. And in another second, had our contact lasted, I was certain that there would erupt into speech, out of all that light and beauty, some brutal variation of look. Baby, I know you. I felt my face flame. I felt my heart harden and shake as I hurried past him, trying to look stonily beyond him. He had caught me by surprise, for I had, somehow, not really been thinking of him but of the letter in my pocket of Hella and Giovanni. I got to the other side of the boulevard, not daring to look back, and I wondered what he had seen in me to elicit such instantaneous contempt. I was too old to suppose that it had anything to do with my walk, or the way I held my hands, or my voice, which anyway he had not heard. It was something else, and I would never see it. I would never dare to see it. It would be like looking at the naked sun. But hurrying, and not daring now to look at anyone, male or female, who passed me on the wide sidewalks, I knew that what the sailor had seen in my unguarded eyes was envy and desire. I had seen it often in Jacques' eyes, and my reaction and the sailor's had been the same. But if I were still able to feel affection, and if he had seen it in my eyes, it would not have helped for affection. For the boys I was doomed to look at was vastly more frightening than lust. I walked farther than I had intended, for I did not dare to stop while the sailor might still be watching. Near the river, on Rue de Pyramids, I sat down at a café table and opened Hella's letter. Mon cher, she began, Spain is my favorite country, mais ça n'empêche que Paris est. Users ma ville préférée. I long to be again among all those foolish people, running for metros and jumping off of buses and dodging motorcycles and having traffic jams and admiring all that crazy statuary in all those absurd parks. I weep for the fishy ladies in the Place de la Concorde. Spain is not like that at all. Whatever else Spain is, it is not frivolous. I think really that I would stay in Spain forever if I had never been to Paris. Spain is very beautiful, stony and sunny and lonely. But by and by you get tired of olive oil and fish and castanets and tambourines, or anyway, I do. I want to come home to Paris. It's funny, I've never felt any place was home before. Nothing has happened to me here. I suppose that pleases you. I confess it rather pleases me. The Spaniards are nice, but, of course, most of them are terribly poor. The ones who aren't are impossible. I don't like the tourists, mainly English and American dipsomaniacs, paid, my dear, by their families to stay away. I wish I had a family. I'm on Mallorca now, and it would be a pretty place if you could dump all the pensioned widows into the sea and make dry martini drinking illegal. I've never seen anything like it. The way these old hags guzzle and make eyes at anything in pants, especially anything about 18. Well, I said to myself, Hella, my girl, take a good look. You may be looking at your future. The trouble is that I love myself too much. And so I've decided to let two try it, this business of loving me, and see how that works out. I feel fine, now that I've made the decision. I hope you'll feel fine, too, dear knight in Gimbal's armor. I've been trapped into some dreary expedition to Seville with an English family I met in Barcelona. They adore Spain and they want to take me to see a bullfight. I never have, all the time I've been wandering around here. They're really quite nice. He's some kind of poet with the BBC and she's his efficient and adoring spouse. Quite nice, really. They do have an impossibly lunatic son who imagines himself mad about me, but he's much too English and much, much too young. I leave tomorrow and shall be gone 10 days. Then they to England and I to you. I folded this letter, which I now realized I had been awaiting for many days and nights, and the waiter came and asked me what I wanted to drink. I had meant to order an aperitif, but now, in some grotesque spirit of celebration, ordered a scotch and soda. And over this drink, which had never seemed more American than it did at that moment, I stared at absurd Paris, which was as cluttered now, under the scalding sun, as the landscape of my heart. I cannot say that I was frightened. Or, it would be better to say that I did not feel any fear. The way men who are shot do not, I am told, feel any pain for a while. I felt a certain relief. It seemed that the necessity for decision had been taken from my hands. I told myself that we both had always known, Giovanni and myself, that our idyll could not last forever. And it was not as though I had not been honest with him. B knew all about Hella. He knew that she would be returning to Paris one day. Now she would be coming back and my life with Giovanni would be finished. It would be something that had happened to me once. It would be something that had happened to many men once. Paid for. Once, it would be something that had happened to many men once. I paid for my drink and got up and walked across the river to Montparnasse. I felt elated, yet as I walked down Raspail toward the cafes of Montparnasse, I could not fail to remember that Hella and I had walked here, Giovanni and I had walked here. And with each step, the face that glowed insistently before me was not her face but his. I was beginning to wonder how he would take my news. I did not think he would fight me, but I was afraid of what I would see in his face. I was afraid of the pain I would see there. But even this was not my real fear. My real fear was buried and was driving me to Montparnasse. I wanted to find a girl, any girl at all, but the terraces seemed oddly deserted. I walked along slowly, on both sides of the street, looking at the tables. I saw no one I knew. I walked down as far as the Classerie de Lillis and I had a solitary drink there. I read my letters again. I thought of finding Giovanni at once and telling him I was leaving him, but I knew he would not yet have opened the bar, and he might be almost anywhere in Paris at this hour. I walked slowly back up the boulevard. Then I saw a couple of girls, French whores, but they were not very attractive. I told myself that I could do better than that. I got to the Select and sat down. I watched the people pass and I drank. No one I knew appeared on the boulevard for the longest while. The person who appeared, and whom I did not know very well, was a girl named Sue, blonde and rather puffy, with the quality, in spite of the fact that she was not pretty, of the girls who are selected each year to be Miss Rheingold. She wore her curly blonde haircut very short. She had small breasts and a big behind, and in order, no doubt, to indicate to the world how little she cared for appearance or sensuality, she almost always wore tight blue jeans. I think she came from Philadelphia and her family was very rich. Sometimes, when she was drunk, she reviled them, and sometimes, drunk in another way, she extolled their virtues of thrift and fidelity. I was both dismayed and relieved to see her. The moment she appeared, I began, mentally, to take off all her clothes. "Sit down," I said. "Have a drink." "I'm glad to see you," she cried, sitting down, and looking about for the waiter. "You'd rather dropped out of sight. How've you been?" Abandoning her search for the waiter and leaning forward to me with a friendly grin. "I've been fine," I told her. "And you?" "Oh, me. Nothing ever happens to me." And she turned down the corners of her rather predatory and also vulnerable mouth to indicate that she was both joking and not joking. "I'm built like a brick stone wall." We both laughed. She peered at me. They tell me you're living way out at the end of Paris, near the zoo. I found a maid's room out there. Very cheap. Are you living alone? I did not know whether she knew about Giovanni or not. I felt a hint of sweat on my forehead. Sort of, I said. Sort of? What the hell does that mean? Do you have a monkey with you? Or something? I grinned. No. But this French kid I know, he lives with his mistress, but they fight a lot and it's really his room, so sometimes, when his mistress throws him out, he bunks with me for a couple of days. Ah, she sighed. Chagrin d'amour. He's having a good time, I said. He loves it. I looked at her. Aren't you? Stone walls, she said, are impenetrable. The waiter arrived. Doesn't it? I dared. Depend on the weapon? What are you buying me to drink? She asked. What do you want? We were both grinning. The waiter stood above us, manifesting a kind of surly joie de vivre. I believe I'll have. She batted the eyelashes of her tight blue eyes. Un Ricard. With a hell of a lot of ice. Do Ricards, I said to the waiter avec beaucoup de la glace. Oui, monsieur. I was sure he despised us both. I thought of Giovanni and of how many times in an evening the phrase oui, monsieur fell from his lips. With this fleeting thought there came another, equally fleeting. A new sense of Giovanni, his private life and pain, and all that moved like a flood in him when we lay together at night. To continue, I said. To continue. She made her eyes very wide and blank. Where were we? She was trying to be coquettish and she was trying to be hard-headed. I felt that I was doing something very cruel, but I could not stop. We were talking about stone walls and how they could be entered. I never knew, she simpered, that you had any interest in stone walls. There's a lot about me you don't know. The waiter returned with our drinks. Don't you think discoveries are fun? She stared discontentedly at her drink. Tranquilly, she said, turning toward me again with those eyes. No. Oh, you're much too young for that, I said. Everything should be a discovery. She was silent for a moment. She sipped her drink. I've made, she said finally, all the discoveries that I can stand. But I watched the way her thighs moved against the cloth of her jeans. But you can't just go on being a brick stone wall forever. I don't see why not, she said. Nor do I see how not. Baby, I said, I'm making you a proposition. She picked up her glass again and sipped it, staring straight outward at the boulevard. And what's the proposition? Invite me for a drink. Chez toi. I don't believe, she said, turning to me, that I've got anything in the house. We can pick up something on the way, I said. She stared at me for a long time. I forced myself not to drop my eyes. I'm sure that I shouldn't, she said at last. Why not? She made a small, helpless movement in the wicker chair. I don't know. I don't know what you want. I laughed. If you invite me home for a drink, I said, I'll show you. I think you're being impossible, she said. And for the first time there was something genuine in her eyes and voice. Well, I said, I think you are. I looked at her with a smile which was, I hoped, both boyish and insistent. One don't know what I've said that's so impossible. I've put all my cards on the table, but you're still holding yours. I don't know why you should think a man's being impossible when he declares himself attracted to you. Oh, please, she said and finished her drink. I'm sure it's just the summer sun. The summer sun, I said, lies nothing to do with it. And when she still made no answer, all you've got to do, I said desperately, is decide whether we'll have another drink here or at your place. She snapped her fingers abruptly but did not succeed in appearing jaunty. Come along, she said. I'm certain to regret it, but you really will have to buy something to drink. There isn't anything in the house. And that way, she added after a moment, I'll be sure to get something out of the deal. It was I, then, who felt a dreadful holding back. To avoid looking at her, I made a great show of getting the waiter. And he came, as surly as ever, and I paid him, and we rose and started walking towards the Rue de Sèvres, where Sue paid him, and we rose and started walking towards the Rue de Sèvres, where Sue had a small apartment. Her apartment was dark and full of furniture. None of it is mine, she said. It all belongs to the French lady of a certain age from whom I rented it, who is now in Monte Carlo for her nerves. She was very nervous, too, and I saw that this nervousness could be, for a little while, a great help to me. I had bought a small bottle of cognac and I put it down on her marble-top table and took her in my arms. For some reason, I was terribly aware that it was after 7 in the evening, that soon the sun would have disappeared from the river, that all the Paris night was about to begin, and that Giovanni was now at work. She was very big and she was disquietingly fluid without, however, being able to flow. I felt a hardness and a constriction in her, a grave distrust, created already by too many men like me ever to be conquered now. What we were about to do would not be pretty. And, as though she felt this, she moved away from me. "Let's have a drink," she said. "Unless, of course, you're in a hurry. I'll try not to keep you any longer than absolutely necessary." She smiled and I smiled, too. We were as close in that instant as we would ever get. Like two thieves. "Let's have several drinks," I said. "But not too many," she said, and simpered again suggestively, like a broken-down movie queen facing the cruel cameras again after a long eclipse. She took the cognac and disappeared into her corner of a kitchen. "Make yourself comfortable," she shouted out to me. "Take off your shoes. Take off your socks. Look at my books." I often wonder what I'd do if there weren't any books in the world. I took off my shoes and lay back on her sofa. I tried not to think. But I was thinking that what I did with Giovanni could not possibly be more immoral than what I was about to do with Sue. She came back with 2 great brandy snifters. She came close to me on the sofa and we ushed glasses. We drank a little, she watching me all the while, and then I ushed her breasts. Her UPS parted and she put her glass down with extraordinary clumsiness and lay against me. It was a gesture of great despair and I knew that she was giving herself, not to me, but to that lover who would never come. And I thought of many things, lying coupled with Sue in that dark place. I wondered if she had done anything to prevent herself from becoming pregnant. And the thought of a child belonging to Sue and me, of my being trapped that way, in the very act, so to speak, of trying to escape, almost precipitated a laughing jag. I wondered if her blue jeans had been thrown on top of the cigarette she had been smoking. I wondered if anyone else had a key to her apartment, if we could be heard through the inadequate walls, how much, in a few moments, we would hate each other. I also approached Sue as though she were a job of work, a job which it was necessary to do in an unforgettable manner. Somewhere, at the very bottom of myself, I realized that I was doing something awful to her, and it became a matter of my honor not to let this fact become too obvious. I tried to convey, through this grisly act of love, the intelligence, at least, that it was not her flesh that I despised. It would not be her I could not face when we became vertical again. Again, somewhere at the bottom of me, I realized that my fears had been excessive and groundless and, in effect, a lie. It became clearer every instant that what I had been afraid of had nothing to do with my body. Sue was not Hela, and she did not lessen my terror of what would happen when Hela came. She increased it, she made it more real than it had been before. At the same time, I realized that my performance with Sue was succeeding even too well, and I tried not to despise her for feeling so little what her laborer felt. I traveled through a network of Sue's cries, of Sue's tom-tom fists on my back, and judged by means of her thighs, by means of her legs, how soon I could be free. Then I thought, the end is coming soon. Her sobs became even higher and harsher. I was terribly aware of the small of my back and the cold sweat there. I thought, well, let her have it for Christ's sake, get it over with. Then it was ending and I hated her and me. Then it was over and the dark, tiny room rushed back. And I wanted only to get out of there. She lay still for a long time. I felt the night outside and it was calling me. I leaned up at last and found a cigarette. "Perhaps," she said, "we should finish our drinks." She sat up and switched on the lamp which stood beside her bed. I had been dreading this moment, but she saw nothing in my eyes. She stared at me as though I had made a long journey on a white charger all the way to her prison house. She lifted her glass. "À la vatri," I said. "À la vatri?" She giggled. "À la tienne, chérie." She leaned over and kissed me on the mouth. Then, for a moment, she felt something. She leaned back and stared at me, her eyes not quite tightening yet, and she said lightly, "Do you suppose we could do this again sometime?" "I don't see why not," I told her, trying to laugh. "We carry our own equipment." "Equipment." She was silent. Then, "Could we have supper together? Tonight?" "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm really sorry, Sue. But I've got a date." "Oh." Tomorrow, maybe? Look, Sue. I hate to make dates. I'll just surprise you. She finished her drink. I doubt that, she said. She got up and walked away from me. I'll just put on some clothes and come down with you. She disappeared and I heard the water running. I sat there, still naked, but with my socks on, and poured myself another brandy. Now I was afraid to go out into that night which had seemed to be calling me only a few moments before. When she came back, she was wearing a dress and some real shoes, and she had sort of fluffed up her hair. I had to admit she looked better that way, really more like a girl, like a schoolgirl. I rose and started putting on my clothes. You look nice, I said. There was a great many things she wanted to say, but she forced herself to say nothing. I could scarcely bear to watch the struggle occurring in her face. It made me so ashamed. Maybe you'll be lonely again, she said finally. I guess I won't mind if you come looking for me. She wore the strangest smile I had ever seen. It was pained and vindictive and humiliated, but she inexpertly smeared across this grimace a bright, girlish gaiety, as rigid as the skeleton beneath her flabby body. If fate ever allowed Sue to reach me, she would kill me with just that smile. Keep a candle, I said in the window, and she opened her door and we passed out into the streets. Chapter 3. I left her at the nearest corner, mumbling some schoolboy excuse, and watched her stolid figure cross the boulevard towards the cafes. I did not know what to do or where to go. I found myself at last along the river, slowly going home. And this was perhaps the first time in my life that death occurred to me as a reality. I thought of the people before me who had looked down at the river and gone to sleep beneath it. I wondered about them. I wondered how they had done it. The physical act. I had thought of suicide when I was much younger, as possibly we all have, but then it would have been for revenge. It would have been my way of informing the world how awfully it had made me suffer. But the silence of the evening, as I wandered home, had nothing to do with that storm, that far-off boy. I simply wondered about the dead because their days had ended and I did not know how I would get through mine. The city, Paris, which I loved so much, was absolutely silent. There seemed to be almost no one on the streets, although it was still very early in the evening. Nevertheless, beneath me, along the river bank, beneath the bridges, in the shadow of the walls, I could almost hear the collective, shivering sigh, where lovers in ruins, sleeping, embracing, coupling, drinking, staring out at the descending night. Behind the walls of the houses I passed, the French nation was clearing away the dishes, putting little Jean-Pierre and Marie to bed, scowling over the eternal problems of the sew, the shop, the church, the unsteady state. Those walls, those shuttered windows held them in and protected them against the darkness and the long moan of this long night. 10 years hence, little Jean-Pierre or Marie might find themselves out here beside the river and wonder, like me, how they had fallen out of the web of safety. What a long way, I thought, I've come to be destroyed. Yet it was true, I recalled, turning away from the river down the long street home. I wanted children. I wanted to be inside again, with the light and safety, with my manhood unquestioned, watching my woman put my children to bed. I wanted the same bed at night and the same arms, and I wanted to rise in the morning, knowing where I was. I wanted a woman to be for me a steady ground, like the earth itself, where I could always be renewed. It had been so once. It had almost been so once. I could make it so again. I could make it real. It only demanded a short, hard strength for me to become myself again. I saw a light burning beneath our door as I walked down the corridor. Before I put my key in the lock, the door was opened from within. Giovanni stood there, his hair in his eyes, laughing. He held a glass of cognac in his hand. I was struck at first by what seemed to be the merriment on his face. Then I saw that it was not merriment but hysteria and despair. I started to ask him what he was doing home, but he pulled me into the room, holding me around the neck tightly, with one hand. He was shaking. "Where have you been?" I looked into his face, pulling slightly away from him. "I have looked for you everywhere. Didn't you go to work?" I asked him. "No," he said. "Have a drink. I have bought a bottle of cognac to celebrate my freedom." He poured me a cognac. I did not seem to be able to move. He came toward me again, thrusting the glass into my hand. "Giovanni, what happened?" He did not answer. He suddenly sat down on the edge of the bed, bent over. I saw then that he was also in a state of rage. "Al sant sale, les gens, tu sais?" He looked up at me. His eyes were full of tears. They are just dirty, all of them low and cheap and dirty. He stretched out his hand and pulled me down to the floor beside him. All except you. Use soft toy. He held my face between his hands, and I suppose such tenderness has scarcely ever produced such terror as I then felt. Ne me laisse pas tumor, Jaifan Pri, he said, and kissed me, with a strange insistent gentleness on the mouth. His youch could never fail to make me feel desire. Yet his hot, sweet breath also made me want to vomit. I pulled away as gently as I could and drank my cognac. Giovanni, I said, please tell me what happened. What's the matter? He fired me, he said. Guillaume, LMA mis à la porte. He laughed and rose and began walking up and down the tiny room. He told me never to come to his bar anymore. He said I was a gangster and a thief and a dirty little street boy, and the only reason I ran after him was because I intended to rob him one night. Après l'amour. Murd. He laughed again. I could not say anything. I felt that the walls of the room were closing in on me. Giovanni stood in front of our whitewashed windows, his back to me. He said all these things in front of many people right downstairs in the bar. He waited until people came. I wanted to kill him, I wanted to kill them all. He turned back into the center of the room and poured himself another cognac. He drank it at a breath, then suddenly took his glass and hurled it with all his strength against the wall. It rang briefly and fell in 1,000 pieces all over our bed, all over the floor. I could not move at once. Then, feeling that my feet were being held back by water but also watching myself move very fast, I grabbed him by the shoulders. He began to cry. I held him, and while I felt his anguish entering into me, like acid in his sweat, and felt that my heart would burst for him, I also wondered with an unwilling, unbelieving contempt why I had ever thought him strong. He pulled away from me and sat against the wall which had been uncovered. I sat facing him. I arrived at the usual time, he said. I felt very good today. He was not there when I arrived, and I cleaned the bar as usual and had a little drink and a little something to eat. Then he came, and I could see at once that he was in a dangerous mood. Perhaps he had just been humiliated by some young boy. It is funny. And he smiled. You can tell when Guillaume is in a dangerous mood because he then becomes so respectable. When something has happened to humiliate him and make him see, even for a moment, how disgusting he is, and how alone, then he remembers that he is a member of one of the best and oldest families in France. But maybe, then, he remembers that his name is going to die with him. Then he has to do something quick to make the feeling go away. He has to make much noise, or have some very pretty boy, or get drunk, or have a fight, or look at his dirty pictures. He paused and stood up and began walking up and down again. I do not know what happened to him today, but when he came in he tried at first to be very businesslike. He was trying to find fault with my work. But there was nothing wrong, and he went upstairs. Then, by and by, he called me. I hate going up to that little pied-à-terre he has up there over the bar. It always means a scene. But I had to go, and I found him in his dressing gown, covered with perfume. I do not know why, but the moment I saw him like that, I began to be angry. He looked at me as though he were some fabulous coquette, and he is ugly, he has a body just like sour milk. And then he asked me how you were. I was a little astonished, for he never mentions you. I said you were fine. He asked me if we still lived together. I think perhaps I should have lied to him, but I did not see any reason to heed to such a disgusting old fairy. So I said, bien sûr. I was trying to be calm. Then he asked me terrible questions, and I began to get sick watching him and listening to him. I thought it was best to be very quick with him, and I said that such questions were not asked, even by a priest or a doctor, and I said he should be ashamed. Maybe he had been waiting for me to say something like that, for then he became angry and he reminded me that he had taken me out of the streets, itiel a fate cctil a fate sela. Everything for me because he thought I was adorable, parce chuel materate, and on, and that I had no gratitude and no decency. I maybe handled it all very badly. I know how I would have done it even a few months ago. I would have made him scream. I would have made him kiss my feet, jet jure. But I did not want to do that. I really did not want to be dirty with him. I tried to be serious. I told him that I had never told him any lies, and I had always said that I did not want to be lovers with him. And he had given me the job all the same. I said I worked very hard and was very honest with him, and that it was not my fault if I did not feel for him as he felt for me. Then he reminded me that one time, and I did not want to say yes, but I was weak from hunger and had trouble not to vomit. I was still trying to be calm and trying to handle it right. So I said, Mais asi moment la j'enavise pas un copain. I am not alone anymore. Je suis avec un garçon maintenant. I thought he would understand that he is very fond of romance and the dream of fidelity. But not this time. He laughed and said a few more awful things about you, and he said that you were just an American boy after all, doing things in France which you would not dare to do at home, and that you would leave me very soon. Then, at last, I got angry and I said that he did not pay me a salary for listening to slander, and then I heard someone come into the bar downstairs, so I turned around without saying anything more and walked out. He stopped in front of me. Can I have some more cognac? He asked with a smile. I won't break the glass this time. I gave him my glass. He emptied it and handed it back. He watched my face. Don't be afraid, he said. We will be all right. I am not afraid. Then his eyes darkened. He looked again toward the windows. Well, he said, I hoped that that would be the end of it. I worked in the bar and tried not to think of Guillaume or of what he was thinking or doing upstairs. It was apéritif time, you know? And I was very busy. Then, suddenly, I heard the door slam upstairs, and the moment I heard that I knew that it had happened. The awful thing had happened. He came into the bar, all dressed now like a French businessman, and came straight to me. He did not speak to anyone as he came in, and he looked white and angry, and, naturally, this attracted attention. Everyone was waiting to see what he would do. And, I must say, I thought he was going to strike me, or he had maybe gone mad and had a pistol in his pocket. So I am sure I looked frightened, and this did not help matters either. He came behind the bar and began saying that I was a tapette and a thief and told me to leave at once or he would call the police and have me put behind bars. I was so astonished I could not say anything, and all the time his voice was rising and people were beginning to listen, and suddenly, mon cher, I felt that I was falling from a great high place. For a long while I could not get angry, and I could feel the tears, like fire, coming up. I could not get my breath. I could not believe that he was really doing this to me. I kept saying, what have I done? What have I done? You know very well. And nobody knew what he meant, but it was just as though we were back in that theater lobby again, where we met, you remember? Everybody knew that Guillaume was right and I was wrong, that I had done something awful. And he went to the cash register and took out some money, but I knew that he knew that there was not much money in the cash register at such an hour, and pushed it at me and said, take it, take it. Better to give it to you than have you steal it from me at night. Now go. And oh, the faces in that bar, you should have seen them. They were so wise and tragic, and they knew that now they knew everything, that they had always known it, and they were so glad that they had never had anything to do with me. Ah, les encules, the dirty sons of bitches, les gonzesses. He was weeping again, with rage this time. Then, at last, I struck him, and then many hands grabbed me, and now I hardly know what happened. But by and by I was in the street, with all these torn bills in my hand and everybody staring at me. I did not know what to do. I hated to walk away, but I knew if anything more happened, the police would come and Guillaume would have me put in jail. But I will see him again. I swear it. And on that day, he stopped and sat down, staring at the wall. Then he turned to me. He watched me for a long time in silence. Then, if you were not here, he said very slowly, this would be the end of Giovanni. I stood up. Don't be silly, I said. It's not so tragic as all that. I paused. Guillaume's disgusting. They all are. But it's not the worst thing that ever happened to you. Is it? Maybe everything bad that happens to you makes you weaker, said Giovanni, as though he had not heard me. And so you can stand less and less. Then, looking up at me, no. The worst thing happened to me long ago, and my life has been awful since that day. You are not going to leave me, are you? I laughed. Of course not. I started shaking the broken glass off our blanket onto the floor. I do not know what I would do if you left me. For the first time I felt I do not know what I would do if you left me. For the first time I felt the suggestion of a threat in his voice, or I put it there. I have been alone so long. I do not think I would be able to live if I had to be alone again. You aren't alone now, I said. And then, quickly, for I could not, at that moment, have endured his touch. Shall we go for a walk? Come. Out of this room for a minute. I grinned and cuffed him roughly, football fashion, on the neck. Then we clung together for an instant. pushed him away. "I'll buy you a drink," I said. "And will you bring me home again?" he asked. "Yes, I'll bring you home again. Je t'aime. Tu sais? Je le sais, mon vieux." He went to the sink and started washing his face. He combed his hair. I watched him. He grinned at me in the mirror, looking suddenly beautiful and happy and young. I had never in my life before felt so helpless or so old. "But we will be all right," he cried. "N'est-ce pas?" "Certainly," I said. He turned from the mirror. He was serious again. "But you know, I do not know how long it will be before I find another job. And we have almost no money. Do you have any money? Did any money come from New York for you today?" "No money came from New York today," I said calmly. "But I have a little money in my pocket." I took it all out and put it on the table. About 4,000 francs. And He went through his pockets, scattering bills and change. He shrugged and smiled at me. That fantastically sweet and helpless and moving smile. Jem excuse. I went a little mad. He went down on his hands and knees and gathered it up and put it on the table beside the money I had placed there. About 3,000 francs worth of bills had to be pasted together, and we put those aside until later. The rest of the money on the table totaled about 9,000 francs. "We are not rich," said Giovanni grimly, "but we will eat tomorrow." I somehow did not want him to be worried. I could not endure that look on his face. "Till write my father again tomorrow," I said. "I'll tell him some kind of he that he'll believe, and I'll make him send me some money." And I moved toward him as though I were driven, putting my hands on his shoulders and forcing myself to look into his eyes. I smiled, and I really felt at that moment that Judas and the Savior had met in me. "Don't be frightened. Don't worry." And I also felt, standing so close to him, feeling such a passion to keep him from terror, that a decision, once again, had been taken from my hands. For neither my father nor Hella was real at that moment. And yet even this was not as real as my despairing sense that nothing was real for me. Nothing would ever be real for me again, unless, indeed, this sensation of falling was reality. The hours of this night begin to dwindle, and now, with every second that passes on the clock, the blood at the bottom of my heart begins to boil, to bubble, and I know that no matter what I do, anguish is about to overtake me in this house, as naked and silver as that great knife which Giovanni will be facing very soon. My executioners are here with me, walking up and down with me, washing things and packing and drinking from my bottle. They are everywhere I turn. Walls, windows, mirrors, water, the night outside, they are everywhere. I might call, as Giovanni at this moment lying in his cell might call. But no one will hear. I might try to explain. Giovanni tried to explain. I might ask to be forgiven if I could name and face my crime, if there were anything or anybody anywhere with the power to forgive. No, it would help if I were able to feel guilty. But the end of innocence is also the end of guilt. No matter how it seems now, I must confess. I loved him. I do not think that I will ever love anyone like that again. And this might be a great relief if I did not also know that, when the knife has fallen, Giovanni, if he feels anything, will feel relief. I walk up and down this house. Up and down this house. I think of prison. Long ago, before I had ever met Giovanni, I met a man at a party at Jacques' house who was celebrated because he had spent half his life in prison. He had then written a book about it which displeased the prison authorities and won a literary prize. But this man's life was over. He was fond of saying that, since to be in prison was simply not to live, the death penalty was the only merciful verdict any jury could deliver. I remember thinking that, in effect, he had never left prison. Prison was all that was real to him. He could speak of nothing else. All his movements, even to the lighting of a cigarette, were stealthy. Wherever his eyes focused, one saw a wall rise up. His face, the color of his face, brought to mind darkness and dampness. I felt that if one cut him, his flesh would be the flesh of mushrooms. And he described to us in avid, nostalgic detail the barred windows, the barred doors, the Judas, the guards standing at far ends of corridors under the light. It is 3 tiers high inside the prison, and everything is the color of gunmetal. Everything is dark and cold, except for those patches of light where authority stands. There is on the air perpetually the memory of fists against the metal, a dull, booming tom-tom possibility, like the possibility of madness. The guards move and mutter and pace the corridors and boom dully up and down the stairs. They are in black, they carry guns, they are always afraid, they scarcely dare be kind. 3 tiers down, in the prison's center, in the prison's great, cold heart, there is always activity. Trusted prisoners wheeling things about, going in and out of the offices, ingratiating themselves with the guards for privileges of cigarettes, alcohol, and sex. The night deepens in the prison, there is muttering everywhere, and everybody knows, somehow, that death will be entering the prison courtyard early in the morning. Very early in the morning, before the trustees begin wheeling great garbage cans of food along the corridors. 3 men in black will come noiselessly down the corridor. One of them will turn the key in the lock. They will lay hands on someone and rush him down the corridor, first to the priest and then to a door which will open only for him, which will allow him, perhaps, one glimpse of the morning before he is thrown forward on his belly on a board and the knife falls on his neck. I wonder about the size of Giovanni's cell. I wonder if it is bigger than his room. I know that it is colder. I wonder if he is alone or with 2 or 3 others. If he is perhaps playing cards or smoking or talking or writing a letter, to whom would he be writing a letter? Or walking up and down? I wonder if he knows that the approaching morning is the last morning of his life. For the prisoner usually does not know. The lawyer knows and tells the family or friends but does not tell the prisoner. I wonder if he cares. Whether he knows or not, cares or not, he is certainly afraid. Whether he is with others or not, he is certainly alone. I try to see him, his back to me, standing at the window of his cell. From where he is, perhaps he can only see the opposite wing of the prison. Perhaps by straining a little just over the high wall, a patch of the street outside. I do not know if his hair has been cut or is long. I should think it would have been cut. I wonder if he is shaven. And now a million details, proof and fruit of intimacy, flood my mind. I wonder, for example, if he feels the need to go to the bathroom, if he has been able to eat today, if he is sweating or dry. I wonder if anyone has made love to him in prison. And then something shakes me. I feel shaken hard and dry, like some dead thing in the desert, and I know that I am hoping that Giovanni is being sheltered in someone's arms tonight. I wish that someone were here with me. I would make love to whoever was here all night long. I would labor with Giovanni all night long. Those days after Giovanni had lost his job, we dawdled. Dawdled as doomed mountain climbers may be said to dawdle above the chasm, held only by a snapping rope. I did not write my father. I put it off from day to day. It would have been too definitive an act. I knew which he I would tell and I knew the he would work, only I was not sure that it would be a he. Day after day we lingered in that room and Giovanni began to work on it again. He had some weird idea that it would be nice to have a bookcase sunk in the wall, and he chipped through the wall until he came to the brick and began pounding away at the brick. It was hard work. It was insane work. But I did not have the energy or the heart to stop him. In a way, he was doing it for me, to prove his love for me. He wanted me to stay in the room with him. Perhaps he was trying, with his own strength, to push back the encroaching walls, without, however, having the walls fall down. Now, of course, I see something very beautiful in those days which were such torture then. I felt, then, that Giovanni was dragging me with him to the bottom of the sea. He could not find a job. I knew that he was not really looking for one, that he could not. He had been bruised, so to speak, so badly that the eyes of strangers lacerated him like salt. He could not endure being very far from me for very long. I was the only person on God's cold, green earth who cared about him, who knew his speech in silence, knew his arms, and did not carry a knife. The burden of his salvation seemed to be on me, and I could not endure it. And the money dwindled, it did not dwindle very fast. Giovanni tried to keep panic out of his voice when he asked me each morning, "Are you going to American Express today?" "Certainly," I would answer. "Do you think your money will be there today?" "I don't know." "What are they doing with your money in New York?" Still I could not act. I went to Jacques and borrowed 10,000 francs from him again. I told him that Giovanni and I were going through a difficult time, but that it would be over soon. "He was very nice about it," said Giovanni. "He can, sometimes, be a very nice man." We were sitting on a terrace near Odeon. I looked at Giovanni and thought for a moment how nice it would be if Jacques would take him off my hands. "What are you thinking?" asked Giovanni. For a moment I was frightened and I was also ashamed. "I was thinking," I said, "that I'd like to get out of Paris." "Where would you like to go?" he asked. "Oh, I don't know. Anywhere. I'm sick of this city," I said suddenly, with a violence that surprised us both. I'm tired of this ancient pile of stone and all these goddamn smug people. Everything you put your hands on here comes to pieces in your hands. That, said Giovanni gravely, is true. He was watching me with a terrible intensity. I forced myself to look at him and smile. Wouldn't you like to get out of here for a while? I asked. Ah, he said, and raised both hands briefly, palms outward, in a kind of mock resignation. I would like to go wherever you go. I do not feel so strongly about Paris as you do suddenly. I have never liked Paris very much. Perhaps, I said. I scarcely knew what I was saying. We could go to the country. Or to Spain. Ah, he said lightly. You are lonely for your mistress. I was guilty and irritated and full of love and pain. I wanted to kick him and I wanted to take him in my arms. That's no reason to go to Spain, I said sullenly. I'd just like to see it, that's all. This city is expensive. Well, he said brightly, let us go to Spain. Perhaps it will remind me of Italy. Would you rather go to Italy? Would you rather visit your home? He smiled. I do not think I have a home there anymore. And then, no, I would not like to go to Italy. Perhaps, after all, for the same reason you do not want to go to the United States. But I am going to the United States, I said quickly. And he looked at me. I mean, I'm certainly going to go back there one of these days. One of these days, he said. Everything bad will happen, one of these days. Why is it bad? He smiled. Why, you will go home and then you will find that home is not home anymore. Then you will really be in trouble. As long as you stay here, you can always think, one day I will go home. He played with my thumb and grinned. N'est-ce pas? Beautiful logic, I said. You mean I have a home to go to as long as I don't? Beautiful logic, I said. You mean I have a home to go to as long as I don't go there?